Hello, friends. I am so excited to introduce you guys to pastry chef and educator Derek. Okay, Derek, listen, I have read over your bio and I let everybody know all the things that you have done. And we have so many ways this conversation can go. And so I just want to warn people up front as you listen to this podcast, we're going to take you on a journey. We're going to go for a ride and I just need y'all to buckle up. I just need you to trust the process. It's gonna be okay. So I think we're gonna start really like simple. Okay.
hmm
What inspired you to get into the baking and culinary world?
we all have our origin stories, if you will. And mine is sitting at my dining room table, my mom teaching me art. And that's really kind of where this all stems from. And we're talking like 5 years old. There was never a shortage of art supplies. And then I come from a family of artists. We all have our kind of avenue, whether it's music or fine art. My brother does tattooing and scenic stuff. My mother is a seamstress. My dad does music. And then I kind of found my own way. And while I never left fine arts, I paint, I sculpt, I still do all of that. I found at a very young age that I liked to turn my art into food. So I
Mm,
started as a cake decorator. I was like 8 years old, taking Wilton cake decorating classes at the craft store, and it was me at 8. And then there was like a 40-year gap of people, and then everybody else.
yes.
Um, but like I was always finishing my stuff really early, and they were complimenting my roses and whatever else I was piping. Um, so that's kind of where all of that started. And then I was lucky enough to go to a school district in New York where they had a robust culinary program, particularly for the time in the early 2000s. Having high school culinary programs, it was rare. We had a small commercial kitchen, small group of people, 4,000 people in my high school, 14 people could be in a class. So there took some fighting from mom. But mom fought for me. She got me in those classes. That's a whole separate story we won't even go into. But and that kind of allowed that flame to kind of just start to burn a little bit hotter. And then conveniently, I grew up 15 minutes from the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. So everything kind of neatly progressed from
Mhm.
there. Um, but it really all just comes down to my love of art, and I love when you can make an art piece and that makes people happy.
Mhm.
And the nice thing about food is it kind of brings like ultimate joy when you hit it right. Um, and I also love that it's disposable. So the art is gone. It doesn't exist again. It's away.
Yes. I totally understand that. And I used to teach Wilton classes. And so I absolutely remember having like the 8-year-old in my class and then like the 40-year-old in my class, and the 8-year-olds always outshine.
We always kill it.
Yeah, I that was my introduction to kids in the kitchen, and
Mhm,
I was
mhm.
like, "Yeah, this," and it literally became my life's journey of being with kids in the kitchen and honing those skills with them and writing books for kids in the kitchen. So I totally get it. Shout out to your mom for putting you in the I was a homeschool mom, so my kids did the same things where there was always art. There were always supplies. They still are, even though my kids are grown, there are still supplies in my house. And they know this. So I get it fully. I love that she tapped into your creativity early on in order to like be like, yeah, go do your thing. Go do your thing. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing, do your thing. I think that is so cool. And even looking at your cakes, like things are sculpted.
Yeah.
Like the art transferred over
Mhm.
into this medium. And I was like, wow. See,
And I'm a retired cake maker at this point. I'm in my late 30s and I've already retired from something. Um,
right?
and I remember like the way, as a former cake maker
Yeah.
now, the way I approached it was never how you would learn in school. Well, this
Mhm.
is how you're going to dowel a cake. And even if you're going to sculpt a cake, you do it this way. And it's like, okay, I'm going to take fondant and I'm going to do all the things to it you're not supposed to. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would work.
Yes, I did that. I did that too. I did that. People are like, "Do you still do cakes?" No, I'm retired.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shut down in 2020.
I'll come out of retirement for a price. But that price has gotten very high.
Yeah, I don't think people could pay me to come out of retirement at this point. I tried it. I tried it once or twice, and I was like, the PTSD from
Mhm.
having to deliver a cake. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't.
We all remember that one that crashed.
Oh my god, mine
Yeah.
was a cake, and I got ran off the road by an 18-wheeler, and the three-tiered cake fell over.
Yeah. It was never our driving that was the problem. It was everybody else.
I was
I had a
like, "What?"
stack of pumpkins, minivan in front of me, screeched to a halt, and you could just hear them in the back go, "Did." And I'm like, I could see the location where it was going. We were almost there. Yeah.
It is the worst. It is the
Yeah.
worst. So no, no, no. People could not. Okay, let's take that. Right. What advice would you give people who are still doing cakes right now? What advice would you give them?
Oh, the biggest thing, so I had a cake shop for 8 years, whether it was running out of my parents' house when it started,
Mhm.
renting space, and then having my own kind of brick and mortar kind of thing. I was on this high horse that everything had to be scratch made,
Mm,
and honestly, people probably the average customer it didn't matter to them that we were doing a scratch butter cake
right.
when we could have used a 50-pound mix.
Yep.
And, like, why were we killing ourselves over that?
Yep.
There are certain things that we were gonna always do in-house. We're always gonna do our ganaches. We're always gonna do our buttercreams in-house.
Hmm.
But why were we killing ourselves, for that? Um, and you can tweak those things, and you can make your own version of a mix as well, to just really help the production side of things.
Yes.
And a lot of it really is the production side. Like, why did we waste so much time and money over there? And then, if I was really give advice, hire artists. Don't hire cake decorators. Train people who know how to make things.
Yes.
Um, because if you're like, oh, I need all these figures, here are these, popular character figures. I need
Mhm.
all of these. I give them a material. They're going to give me something that's nobody taught them how to work with gum paste and fondant, and you get a better product. Right? You got to tell them some rules, but they'll figure it out.
Yes. Agreed. That feels like my externship where when I arrived, I came out of Le Cordon Bleu very from scratch, do all the things, and on the first day of externship, I walked into the back room and I was like, "Box cake mix?
Yep.
What is this?" And she
Yeah.
was like, "I put my money into the people, not this." And she said, "And the other thing with using like mixes, and of course, you doctor the mixes up, but it was that it was a consistent product."
Always.
And so she was like, whether they had it at their wedding and then it's 5 years later and it's a baby shower, it tastes the same.
And you can also take, that high schooler who wants an afternoon job. Here, just add oil and eggs and water, and you're good to go.
Very simple. And I was like, wow, they did not teach me this in culinary. They did not teach me this in culinary school. But we had to make the buttercream every day. We made all the fillings, we made all the ganaches. And the girl who I ended up working with the most in the bakery was an artist. And so she would create the most incredible, like she did a foot my first week there. I was like, "Those toes look so real."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like, "I mean, I use fondant the same way I use clay. Like
Mhm.
it's the same thing." So I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think that's I don't know that anyone's ever said that on the podcast. I love it.
But it's also like take calligraphy classes, take the watercolor
Yeah.
color class.
Yep.
You take the stuff, hang out in Home Depot. Take some Home Depot plumbing classes.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like plumb in a toilet, but you're gonna make a structure.
Yes. And who taught me Timbo? I took
Mhm.
a Timbo class not to learn how to do the things. I just wanted to know how he was making cakes without using cake decorating supplies. He was using like toothpicks and like tips, and I was like, "You you created a whole skull cake using toothpicks and picks?" Okay, like my mind was
Yeah.
completely blown from what we think we should be doing as cake artists into what you could be doing to save
Yep.
yourself some money on the back end
Mhm.
and a whole lot of
Mhm.
time. So
Yeah.
I love that. No one has said that
Mhm.
yet. I love it. This is gonna be a good podcast episode. So Because you've been in the industry, you've been around the industry, you've gone to school, you've been on Food Network, you've written a cookbook, you've done the things, right? So in your opinion, how has the industry changed since you started?
Oh, it's vastly different. I can think back to being in just in culinary school in the early 2000s, and a French macaron, they were white. You put some, like, toasted nuts on top of it, and it was an individual cookie. It wasn't sandwiched. They weren't bright colors. I mean, the movement hadn't moved over from France yet. You were starting to see it, but it wasn't a thing. You couldn't sell a macaron to somebody because they didn't know what it was. And that's kind of like a metaphor where we're always kind of going to. I mean, the industry is so driven by social media now. People are using water jets to cut tempered chocolate. And it's like, yeah, because I have a $15,000 machine just lying around.
Right.
Um, and so, things are changing so rapidly and getting, more contemporary, but now we're also seeing, and I just watched, some things of the Coupe du Monde, and we're going backwards now.
Mhm.
But we always do that. We ebb and flow as an industry. Now we're going back to the classics, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, you made a Pithivier. How long have we been making a Pithivier?"
Right.
Um, and people wanna see that classic again.
Yes.
So the fundamentals we learned in culinary school are back in vogue.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it's just the trends are more like TikTok and Instagram reel based and all of that. People want you to do that stuff, when not necessarily professionals are making those videos.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, yeah, you want me to do that? Oh, that's gonna cost you because that's gonna take me like 6 hours." I know they did it in 15 seconds, but they didn't actually. So that's really kinda like driving and changing who we are as an industry. More and more as an educator now, I'm focusing on that next, generation coming through of like, okay, there's the social media side over here. You may or may not make money over there,
Mhm.
but you need to know your core fundamentals here, and that will give you a career and a base that will last.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think one of the things that always sticks with me is learning how to hold a knife, and like the fact that your elbow needs to be in your side if you plan on sustaining this position.
Yes.
And I watch so often how people's elbows are just flying and I'm like, bring
Yeah.
that wing back in, man.
Yeah.
Like I can hear my chefs a decade later yelling, "Why are you flying?" You're just like, "What
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
world?" But like,
Or just having knife skills. So much I'm pointing at, every baker listening, every up and coming baker who might be listening. You might have, like, a day of knife skills, but you really need to hone those if you're not getting them in your formal education. You need to go get a bag of potatoes and tournay the night away while watching your favorite TV show. Because you need knife skills. And they don't just teach you the knife skills, they show you precision and consistency and why that's important in everything we do.
mhm,
Because when I'm out there and I'm judging for Skills USA with high schoolers and college
mhm,
students, that's my biggest complaint. I'm like, okay, you can do this over here. You're doing this flashy thing you saw on TikTok over here, but you can't make a batonnet or a brunoise,
yeah,
which
yeah,
means when you're cooking, nothing's consistent.
right, yeah.
So it all comes down to the fundamental.
Yes, it does. And teaching children, particularly middle schoolers, they don't like to listen, and so that
No.
has to be that was an I'm like, "Y'all, it matters." They're like, "But why?" Because it does. Like, your stuff isn't gonna cook evenly if
Yes.
you don't understand this, and so just those little things, and a lot of those babies that I was teaching pre-COVID are now headed off to culinary school or in their
Yeah.
first year at Johnson& and Wells, and they're like, "Chef Kim, I know we used to, like, be like, 'Well, if you don't leave us alone with these nice skills, but, like, thank you.'" And I'm like, "You're
Yeah.
welcome."
I always I love hearing that their first year at culinary school, their first couple classes, they're like, "Hey, I know all this stuff."
Yeah.
And it's like, You're welcome.
Right. Like, no, 12-year-old you wasn't okay with that, but it's okay.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So are you doing well in school? Lovely. I love that. So that has been fun in order to watch those kids grow up. Okay. So I'm trying to decide which way we're gonna go with this conversation because you have so many things on your resume. So okay, I got it. What is a memorable success story or a moment you're most proud of in your career?
You know, from being an active baker and pastry chef, that wasn't the highlight. The highlight has come as an educator.
Mm,
When you can get a student to the finish line, whatever that line might be, and it's more of all of those students who've gone on to something else. And sometimes they want to be cooks, and chefs and bakers and pastry chefs or chocolatiers or butchers.
mhm,
And that's great, but that's also everybody else. I got a message years ago. It was my first couple years teaching as a high school culinary teacher, and student graduated out. I got a message from on Instagram like, "Hey, chef, I made that recipe that we made in class, and it impressed all my friends, and they were going to school for something completely unrelated,
mhm.
but they took my classes and." The joy that it brought them,
Yes.
that they had that skill that they could show off, because now you know that that student, former student, is cooking from scratch. They're not afraid to,
Yes.
do that. They have that confidence. But like some of the major highlights is for the past 6 years, I was advising a Skills USA team. And for those people who don't know what Skills USA, it's a high school organization, also college.
Mhm.
They do a lot of career technical competitions and such. My honed in people mostly did culinary, baking, hospitality, and such. But I've had a number of students very successful. Right, we've gone to the national competition the past 3 years,
Nice.
and to see one cook, she would did it for 3 years in a row. The highest rank she got was third place in the nation.
Wow.
But just to be able to kind of do that, it's great seeing the student grow, but it also causes you as a teacher to continue to push them
Mhm.
to show them new things, so you also grow. And as a result, I got my CMB, because last year I had bakers go for the past 2 years with nationals, and I'm like, I've been meaning to do the thing, and am I ever going to get around to it? And I could write a grant, and they can help pay for it, and that's gonna be awesome and everything. But I should do it. And I talked to them, and they're like, "Oh, you should really do that." And they got to see me go through the entire process
Yeah.
that they were doing at another level, but it's fundamentally the same thing.
Yeah.
They saw me stressing out about it and go off and do it, and they get my CMB, and they got to see me get the result as well. So, you mentioned all the Food Network stuff. Like, now as an educator, I don't do Food Network entirely for me. Yes, my ego needs to be pet. Um, but it's also, to keep me on my toes. And to make sure the students understand that I'm still relevant, that my skills are still relevant and
Mhm.
they're still where they need to be. Many times we see educators retire into education,
Yeah.
and they're not pushing themselves anymore and they're not growing in the industry and they're not staying relevant. This is how you stay relevant.
Yeah. Because where are the children? And go there. I love that so much. Totally, I agree with all the things. That I was like, yep, that's my life. I get it. Fully. Fully get it. And I think for me, I never wanted to go on Food Network. I was like, I'm good. But I trained a whole lot of kids to go on Food Network. And I was like, my biggest thing was none of y'all got sent home because you did something wrong. It was
Yep.
great. It was great. It
Yep.
was like
Yep.
you're coming in with a different level of knowledge. And they're like, we hear you in our head. We can hear you. And I'm like,
And
good.
the Food Network stuff is it's such a weird thing. I started out with that stuff in just happenstance. I got a phone call, because somebody else turned down a cake and made a client angry. I took the cake order, and they called up the production company. They happened to be doing Food Network Challenge,
Yeah.
and okay, let's get on that guy's radar. And I've told Food Network no more times than I say yes. And I don't say that in a gloating way, but it's like
Right.
they always call in like September and October.
Yes, they
When are we most busy? Um,
right.
so you have to say no a lot. Guess that keeps them on the thing. But yeah, it's As it says on my Instagram handle, I'm a Food Network hobbyist. I'm not on there for any personal gain. I know that you're not gonna make money off of it, really. You get a little boost,
Right, but that's it.
but it's fun. It's fun, and it pushes you.
It does, and I think that speaks to a lot of people, get in the industry just so that they can go on Food Network, and I'm like, "Okay, but if you're gonna do that, I need you to understand some things about a professional kitchen,
Yeah.
because if not, they're gonna exploit that on TV. They're gonna
Mhm.
know if you know some things or not, and so I need you to learn a little bit before you go do that. And so because that was my stance, a lot of parents were like, "I'm so glad I sent my child to you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I will talk anybody out of doing any TV show ever. I will do my darndest, and then I'll be like, "Don't look at my resume."
Right. Don't worry about what I did. I am just here to tell the story that you can do something different, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So we talked about your time on Food Network. We talked about you being an instructor. You went to CIA.
Mhm.
You have a very artistic family. So last year you released a book.
I made a book. I wrote a book.
Yeah. How was that?
Y you know, as an educator, we end up with this huge Rolodex of recipes.
Yes.
And then these days, they're all digital anyway. And what are the more expensive things you need to do when writing a cookbook? R&D. I already did it all. So I had all the recipes, they already all worked. And they were already all scaled to, like, the size I wanted.
Yes.
So I didn't actually have to do that much of, like, going back into the kitchen. Some of it was like, "Oh, I have all this in weight. Well, if I'm gonna sell this to the average public, I gotta get this all in volume."
Yes.
Um, but I also have high schoolers who wanted to help, and they were happy to do it for free, which was also
Oh,
great.
wonderful.
So I wrote a book. So this was great, and this first one, and I might end up doing kind of a series of a field guide
Okay.
to whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I'm playing with a couple things right now, but this one's just the culinary arts. So in here, it's some fundamental knife skill building kind of recipes, sauces. There's a whole section on pastas,
Mm,
dried pasta and such, appetizers, entrees. Of course, there's a robust baking and pastry section.
yes.
Um, and then a spirit-free beverage section in the back, which anybody could easily fill in the gap if you wanted to make that spirit forward.
Right.
There's a virgin lime Ricky in here that just needs a little tequila, and everybody's gonna be happy.
Ooh,
But it was really fun. I self-published, which it's hard because for years I've been trying to like get in front of a publisher.
yeah.
You'd think being on Food Network, people would even remotely want to take at least answer an email.
Right.
They don't. Publishing is brutal, and getting on anybody's radar is next to impossible these days unless you win a James Beard Award,
Right.
um, or you're a social media sensation, and I just don't have the complexion for it. Um, I'm too shiny Italian. It's just never going to work. But so I decided to self-publish. Uh, me and my spouse Katie, she helped like copy edit. We did the best we could. Are there a couple errors? There were a few. There will be a second edition, like any book.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I did the whole thing. I designed it all on Canva. It's full color, which is
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Um, and then I worked with a printer, and it was kind of cool being able to pick out like, oh, what material do you want? So like it's
Yes.
embossed. You can't see it on here, but like there's texture, which is
Right.
really cool. Because that was an option. I'm like, yeah, for 15 more cents a book,
Yeah.
let's emboss it. Why not?
Right.
Um, and then you register it, and I get to visit now my book. It's with the Library of Congress. I'm in Washington D.C. I can go visit my book whenever I want.
Right.
I'm the only one ever checking it out of the Library of Congress.
That's okay. That's
But
okay though.
it's
But that
there,
it's there.
and my mom knows it's there.
Right. And that's exciting. It's so exciting.
Excuse me.
And after self-publishing 4 different things and definitely working on more, um, for the last couple when I did my pivot out of baking, I didn't go back into teaching. I did that beforehand, and so I went into food photography.
Mhm.
And, like, The thing that made me stand out was because I understood fundamental kitchen skills, and I could get things done faster than just a photographer. So,
Mhm.
like, I was the whole package and not you don't need to have a food
Yeah.
stylist and a
You
photographer
do it all.
and recipe. No,
Uh-huh.
it's just me. I can do all those,
More you can do in-house, the better.
right? And so I was like, well, this is a fun avenue to go down that I had no idea existed
Uh-huh.
because I was like, I'm not a photographer, but I took photography classes and became one. And it's like, this is still working within the artistic medium that I don't think people like really think about that like your
Yeah.
culinary skills will
Mhm.
take you outside of the kitchen
Yeah.
and can probably make you it made me way more money
This is
than
what I tell my students all the time because 'cause they're like, "Well, I don't wanna be like a chef on the line." I'm like, "Please don't. We have enough. We have enough of them." You know, and unless you wanna work for very low wages for the rest of your career, that should not be a career aspiration if you wanna go to culinary school because then you gotta pay off all those loans.
yes.
Please specialize. So, I have a student who's just accepted in a food science program at Virginia Tech. Another one, she's gonna go to CIA, but she has lofty ambitions. Another one's, like, studying sustainable food systems.
Ooh,
So we need all of these other areas,
yes.
but having that basis
Mhm.
of knowing those fundamentals gets them and gives them that background, like with you, your food styling.
Yeah,
I've tried.
and they you have no idea where that will take you.
You
And
never know.
definitely build a profile on LinkedIn because
Mhm.
so many people found me on LinkedIn. They were like, "You do all of what? Okay, let's talk." I was like, I didn't even know. I had no idea that going to Le Cordon Bleu and then taking some photography classes and writing a book. People be like, "Yes." So let's talk about how we can work together. So I think it's important for people to understand this isn't just we want you in a kitchen.
Yeah.
It's we want you to get the skill set and learn the foundation and then
Yeah.
go fly with that.
Yeah.
Unless you're holding a knife, put your elbow into your side.
Definitely. And then when you're doing the baguettes, get that elbow up.
Exactly, or else it's gonna hurt. And I got the shoulder pain to prove it. Okay. So I've got a fun question for you. Um, let's see. Okay, if you had unlimited resources, what's a dream project you'd love to take on in the culinary world?
I want a little gelato shop on like the Tuscan coast where I can be open whenever I want and close wherever I want. That's it.
I am with you on that.
I've had this dream for a long time. Maybe someday it'll happen.
Listen, that sounds like a wonderful retirement plan.
Right? Some
Just
pastries in the
yeah.
morning. When we run out, we run out. It's Italy. Nobody cares.
Oh, I think that is so fun. Like we open at 6 a.m. and we close when we're done.
Yeah, it's okay. It's 2 o'clock and I want to go take a nap.
Right. I that
I
would
come real close.
definitely that would beat working in the kitchen any day. Totally beat working in the kitchen any day.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
And then you're in Tuscany.
that's true. Who doesn't want to be there? Who doesn't want to be there? I think that would be so cool. Okay, because you are an educator and you've done Food Network and you've written a book and you teach and you do all the things. Here's a question. What's one underrated skill that you think every culinary professional should cultivate?
I would rephrase that with specifically bakers, and that goes back to knife skills
Okay.
because bakers don't have knife skills.
Totally.
Also, know how to use a spreadsheet.
Oh
Nobody
my
knows
God.
how to use a
Yes,
spreadsheet anymore.
yes.
That goes for anybody anywhere.
Yes, I was one of those people who fought the spreadsheet world, and that tickled me because there are 3 spreadsheets up on my second screen right now because I've had to go back to that. And I was like, after culinary school, I'm never gonna need spreadsheets again. Yes, you will.
Every day of my life.
Yeah, it will keep you sane, even though it feels like a lot of work. At the end of the day, it's not. Particularly if you tweak a recipe
Yeah.
and you need to go very quickly, like make that note. It is so much easier to have
Yeah.
on a spreadsheet than a bunch of little like notebooks.
Yeah, you line up your baker's percent with it. You can
Yeah,
scale it whatever way you want.
yeah,
Done.
I agree. As much as I don't want to agree with that spreadsheet statement, I agree with you. I definitely think they should. And you're
It'll
right.
hunt you.
Even when I think about culinary school, we did like 6 weeks of like culinary, which
Mhm.
included our knife skills. But then after that, we
You never used them.
we used to
No. And then you get in the real world and you're on the brink of like, oh, well, pastry's done early. I'm going to send you home. Well, you're hourly. I don't want to be sent home because
Right.
you pay my rent. So it's like, well, I'm going to go, cooks don't listen. I'm gonna go slum it on the line. And you need to be able to sling it. So
Yes,
you need those fundamental skills.
you do.
And don't tell me, bakers, you don't need to know how to braise something because braised pineapple is delicious.
It is. There's so many, and you know what? My most viral post on TikTok, and it's so dumb, is me chopping up Oreos. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
all the content I have posted, me chopping Oreos,
Oreos.
and it's literally because my elbow is in my side, and people are like, "How is she doing that?" And I'm like, "This is how
It's
it."
the basics. We all have that chef who's in
Yeah.
the back of our brain and they're yelling at us and threatening to throw a sheet pan at us.
Yes. Like,
Yep.
what are you doing? And I'm like, y'all, it's just Oreos. Like, it's just cookies. There's nothing
Yeah.
special about the
Right.
video, but it's so
Hopefully you got a sponsorship out of this.
and I did not. And I'm just like, you know what? This is so dumb. But yeah, like those things are super important. Okay, so this conversation has been so wonderful. And I'm like, I still got 12 more questions to ask you, but I won't. I will not for the sake of our audience. If you could give any advice to someone, I'm going to say two pieces of advice. One, because you're an educator, I want you to speak to students who, they might not even be students, people who are just kind of thinking about,
Mhm.
maybe I want to move into the industry. I would love for you to give them a piece of advice. And then, secondly, I would love for you to speak to people who've been in the industry and maybe they've been afraid to test out other things, like maybe doing a book or going on a show
Yeah.
or traveling and doing whatever. What advice would you give those two groups of people?
It's kind of the same piece of advice.
Okay.
It's say yes. When opportunities knock, say yes. If you want to write the book, you need to kind of say yes to that and you need to find the time. If your menu is kind of right now, you need to make the time and find the time to do some R&D. Remember why we were having fun with this industry to begin with. And it's the opportunities of somebody who's maybe a student, somebody who's in high school, and there's a catering opportunity. Say yes, do it. You can join a career technical organization like SkillsUSA.
Hmm.
Say yes, do it. You never know what's going to happen from saying yes. You're in culinary school and somebody is like, oh, hey, you want to go help down, with the US Open? Yes. Do you have time? Probably not, but you'll sleep when you're dead. And say yes to all these opportunities. And that's probably how I've had such a diverse career is because, yeah, sure, okay, let's go do it. Why not? Let's give that a try. If I fail, that's fine because you can fail upward, you can fail forward.
Hmm.
But if you never say yes, you're going nowhere.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. That was so tweetable. That back when there was Twitter, not anymore. But
Right?
yes,
We're
back.
on blue sky now.
But yeah, okay. So it still flies. It still flies. See, it
Yeah,
works.
it
It
works.
works.
It works.
That was incredible. I think that is the perfect place to end. Um, literally, just say yes.
Say yes.
I think that is a very small but very impactful piece of advice. And when I think about my career of the last 12 years, I did all the things because I said yes. And I never even thought about it. I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll figure it out. But like, yeah, say yes. I think that's great. Derek, thank you so much for taking time to come and join us on our brand new RVA podcast. This has been absolutely wonderful, guys. I will make sure everything is listed down in the show notes, a link to the book, a link to the website, a link to all the places you can go find Derek and connect with him online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me on.